Thanks, Ron. Well, good. Well, thank you for taking time of the last class of the year. Tonight we're going to talk about perception and meditation. But beyond this, to change your life, you have to understand how your system is. Now, has anyone ever seen this symbol before? Okay, a lot of people think it's kind of hippie-ish or anything else. This is actually more advanced than our science can tell us. What we're finding out is that the body is more energy than matter. Do you know how to measure it? No, nobody does yet. Okay, but we do know that it's there. So what we need to do is, first off, we got to start looking at what health is. Your body is a collection of 70 trillion cells. Now, each cell has to do certain things. It has to take in nutrients, produce proteins, and eliminate waste products. Every cell, that's 70 trillion of them. Now, how they run in harmony, there's a certain type of energy that allows them to function correctly. So health is actually optimal cell function. No, you're supposed to say, wow, that's so simple but beautiful. See, when you start looking at this, that means anything that you do to your system, if it helps the cells, you're going to achieve health. If it doesn't help the cells, you're going to achieve a dis-ease. Let's just say it together, a disease. So now we got to look at it. Every therapy, every suggestion, everything that you do throughout the day is going to either help cell function or not help it. Now, we used to think that we were slave to the DNA, and this is ancient school thinking. It is. Raise your hand if you've heard that cancer is genetic. It's not. Raise your hand if you've heard is diabetes genetic. It's not. Okay, all of those are lies. Is high cholesterol genetic? No, that's a lie too. Okay. See, what happens is, it was a lie, just kind of like people would imagine the world was flat, and they thought it was flat for thousands of years. We know they were wrong. Now, a slave to your DNA, they're trying to find out if you have a disease, like if your parents had a disease, or your grandparents had a disease, you might get it, so I can give you therapies now before you get it. It's called prophylactic. The truth is that you're not in control, or you're not a slave to your genes. Blue eyes, this is a genetic condition I probably never will recover from. Okay. Genes, particularly in diseases, they don't turn themselves on or off. There's a thing now called gene expression. See, for over 50 years, we've been looking at cells. And remember, your body's 70 trillion of these cells. Each cell has a cell wall. They've got certain structures inside that produce proteins, take in nutrients, eliminate waste products. But there's a nucleus in there. Now, inside the nucleus, we used to think the nucleus is the brain. It's not. It's more like the gonads of the cell, kind of like how a cell reproduces. It's kind of the control mechanism, but not the brain. The brain is actually in the cell wall. What we're finding out now is, for 50, 60 years, we've been looking at the contents of the nucleus. And what it is, there's DNA, and then there's protein. And so for about 50 years, we've been throwing away the protein and looking at the DNA. It turns out that the DNA strand looks kind of like a ladder. It's got protein in there, and the protein covers and uncovers. It covers and uncovers the section of the gene that you're going to produce, or that you're going to reproduce. So let's say your grandpa, great-grandpa, great-grandma, everybody in your family had cancer. You don't have to express that area of the gene. So cancer is not genetic. Okay? I don't care if everybody in your family had diabetes, you don't have to express that gene. So what we know now, there is an epigenetic control. Now, this idea has only been around for about 100 years, so medical science is really slow to catch on. In fact, it was started by a French embryologist. He says the living being is the creator of his own evolution. This gets even more fascinating when you realize that the DNA strands are in your body. In your body, remember, 70 trillion cells. Most of your DNA, we're talking around 55%, is viral DNA. This means that you're constantly getting input from the outside, you're getting information from the outside, and you're producing appropriate proteins. Now, let's say, for the heck of it, that we all move to Denver. Okay? I know it's a little cold, Okay, it's not the right time of year to move to Denver, but would there be less oxygen up there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There would be less oxygen. So what would happen is your body would produce, your kidneys would produce a little bit more erythropoietin. Okay, you'd get a little bit more red blood cells because there's less oxygen up there, so you need more cells to carry the oxygen to your cells. Okay, and now that is an adaptation. Your body would get sensory input for the environment, then your cells would produce more of the appropriate protein. Does that make sense? Okay, and that's how the human being works. Now when we look at this, so sickness is lack of optimal cell function. No, again, you're supposed to say, wow, that's so simple. Because when you look at this, anything that helps a cell will give you health. Anything that harms a cell will give you death. Okay? And it's really that clear. Now the problem is we've got a sickness industry in this country that people think it's healthcare, and it's really not. I mean, if you look at the actual research and science behind it, British Medical Journal calls it selling sickness, disease mongering. What they're doing, they're taking actual, just normal symptoms, and they're inventing diseases. And I know it's crazy, but I love the quote out of this. There's a lot of money made to be telling healthy people that they're sick. Do you know what high blood pressure, you know the sign of high blood pressure? You feel good. Do you know the sign of high cholesterol? You feel good. Okay. So see, these are not diseases. They're clues to your body adapting. Now let's say that you had a really poor lifestyle. Let's say you ate at the Del Taco restaurant on the corner. Okay, that's got trans fatty acids, it's got genetically modified food, it has things that will harm arteries, so your arteries may get damaged, they may get smaller, your blood's going to get sick because it's not real food. Do you think in order to keep the same amount of oxygen and nutrients thrown through that artery that blood pressure would have to be elevated? Absolutely. So a lot of these diseases that they're making up aren't really there. Seeing mild symptoms is serious. So even the medical journals are saying, look, you're being sold a bill of goods that doesn't really exist. The psychiatrist, Tom Zass, I mean, brilliant. I mean, he coined the term pharmacracy, okay? I mean, we know what democracy is, okay, that's what we're supposed to have. We know what theocracy is, okay, that's looking towards God's will. But pharmacracy, and he coined this term, but if you look at it, this is how our society is going along. See, it's somebody selling you a bill of goods that the world is flat, and they're saying, I can prove it. Look, if I put water on a round ball, it falls off. I mean, they've been proven that the world's flat for thousands of years, and they're wrong. So first off, how you do this in a pharmacracy state, which is what we have. If you look at the commercials, 46% of TV commercials are for drugs. Now, if a drug helped your cell, because remember, health is cell function, good cell function, disease is bad cell function. Every drug slows or stops a metabolic process, I mean, which might be necessary, very rarely. So a pharmacracy state, a subject's condition is diagnosed as a disease. So if we move to Denver, Colorado, will we all have more cells? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, if those cells get too much, if you gauge or check the blood pressure of somebody in Colorado or the blood pressure of somebody here, you can say, wow, you've got high blood pressure. Or you have some other type of disease or condition, when it's really adaptation. Intervention is defined as a treatment. So what do they do for, say, a headache? What would they normally prescribe? Let's say you got a headache. Advil, Tylenol, good. Tylenol is the deadliest drug in America. We don't actually know how it works. It destroys the liver, okay, and it weakens the immune system, and also it weakens or it inhibits prostaglandin production, so that causes joints to be destroyed. Does that sound like a good drug or a stupid drug? Pretty stupid. Okay, Advil, same thing. It's going to be really bad. It inhibits prostaglandin production, weakens the immune system. What about aspirin? Aspirin? Fourth deadliest drug in America, okay, weakens blood vessels, 16,000 people a year die minimum. Okay, it increases your risk of stroke, leading cause of kidney disease. So can you see a symptom and the therapy is approved by the legislatures and the treatments. So what I want you to do, we're talking about meditation and health. So first, we got to look at the crazy stuff. Now, in order to sell you a bill of goods on the invention of diseases, there's coercion. Now, we've got over 300 nurses as patients. Now, nurses are a lot smarter. We only have about 9 doctors as patients, medical doctors. Of course, most of the doctors that we have as patients are all pharmacists. Okay, why? Because they understand. Do you want to take a Benadryl? Yes, it causes psychosis. Or do you want to get your sinuses adjusted? They're smart. They understand that drugs are deadly. Now the nurses, they understand that injecting foreign viral or animal proteins in your bloodstream can cause an autoimmune response. It can increase your risk of cancer and has no benefit. I'm sorry, I'm describing a flu shot. Well, anyway. Okay, so now what happens is, since there's no science behind an actual flu shot, that by getting it, if you decide not to get it, you're going against the administration, so they make you wear a mask. Now, flu shots aren't checked for efficacy. They don't check to see if they're effective. They have cancer-causing agents in it. It causes autoimmune responses. Now, do you think there's any study that shows that a mask can limit your exposure or exposing other people? There isn't. There's not one study. In fact, there's several studies that show that masks don't do anything. Although, frankly, I think it's a fantastic fashion statement. Well, it worked for Batman. It just doesn't work for me. They're even medicalizing, like gambling is now a disease, smoking's a disease, but it's not. It all has to do with brain function. See, if you're looking for gambling as a disease, that causes endorphins. It's an excitement. It's a thrill. So people have a brain dysfunction, and that's what also we're going to talk about today. This is brilliant. When we talk about this gal, now, is that the definition of cute? Wikipedia cute has probably got her picture. Okay, this is Julie. Now, right now, she's 8 years old in this picture. She wrote a nice little note to me on our kids area. But she's being carried in to a medical office, and one of my patients accosted her mom. Not violently, but they said, you got to take your kid to my chiropractor. I said, no, my daughter has asthma. Now, this kid was taking 2 different inhalers, 6 different medications, 7 years old, failure to thrive. If you're taking multiple steroids, okay, do you think you're doing good or bad? I'm sorry, what do steroids do to the cells? Do they strengthen the cell process or weaken it? Weaken it. So her body was emaciated. Okay, she was super pale. She couldn't produce proteins, and she was at risk of multiple diseases. So she would go to monthly emergency room visits where they would give her more steroids and antibiotics. Now, steroids and antibiotics wipe out the immune system. So she wasn't doing too good. Now, the parents said, no, my daughter doesn't have a back problem. She's got asthma. Well, luckily, we got a 100% success rate curing asthma. I'm sorry, what did I just say? 100% success rate curing asthma. Because asthma is not a problem of the lungs. Again, I'm looking at health is optimal cell function. Disease is lack of optimal cell function. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, is that true in every case, 100% out of 100%? Yeah, because we're all the same. So I go in there, I take an x-ray, I see major pressure on her nervous system, and since the nervous system controls the lungs, within 2 weeks she was off her medications. Then we started to get her on healthy juices and healthy diet. She doesn't eat packaged foods anymore. And what's kind of cool is she wants to be a chiropractor now.
All right.
I know, she's just darling. Okay, but now when we look at this, because remember, health is optimal cell function. So when I teach you how to meditate, when I teach you that your brain is involved in this, you're going to have optimal cell function. When we look at other crazy stuff, we look at this study here, and this was out of Amsterdam. Close down home? Okay, good people. Okay, this is in February in the Journal of Hypertension. What they found is that if you have low blood pressure, you tend to have depression. Okay, now think of this. Your brain burns 25% of the oxygen. You slow down oxygen to the brain. Does that make you happy or sad? Sad, okay. If you're a guy and you have low blood pressure, some things don't work. I know, that's a hint. Okay. So it's not going to make you happy, but when you start looking at this, say, oh my goodness. So wouldn't that be a clue to lack of optimal cell function? Now, this is the scenario. If you have high blood pressure, you could have not enough water. You could have smaller blood vessels. And when we talk about how you take blood pressure, it's kind of silly anyway, because they just crush the blood vessels and slowly release the pressure. So is everybody's blood pressure exactly the same? No. In Europe, they don't do that. Only in this country. In India, they don't do it. Only in this country. There's all gauges, all different numbers. In our country, it's 120/80. Doesn't matter if you're 70 years old or 15 years old. If it's a little bit higher than that, you're instantly given a drug, which is foolish. And, well, the actual protocol for blood pressure, it's supposed to be taken, and this is a medical protocol, on 3 different occasions at 3 different times of the day over a 2-week span. And then, each time they take it, they're supposed to give you advice to say, look, drink water, make sure you're sleeping, don't drink too many carbohydrates. Is it ever done correctly in this country? No. Then let's even take it another step. Before they take it, you're supposed to be sitting down at rest for 10 minutes, deep breathing, and then they take it. Is it ever taken like that? No. So they're not following the protocols are written down for a reason. So then, high blood pressure, you have less oxygen in the tissue. If you have less oxygen in the tissue because you're given a drug, then they're given, an antidepressant, and then it lowers. It's just a stupid cycle. Now, this is a condition called low blood pressure. This is in India. They feel that any blood pressure below 140 is dangerous. They think that below 140 you have less oxygen flow into the tissue. This means you have less optimal cell function. I'm sorry, what was health again? Optimal cell function. What was disease? Lack of optimal cell function. Now, I know I'm repeating myself, but if you burn this in, you can really get actual health. And I love the way they put it. Blood pressure may be caused, or low blood pressure, loss of blood, food poisoning, anemia, or medication use. Now, poisoning. Do we have toxins in the food? Can you go up to Albertsons, pull anything off the shelf, and start eating it? No, most of it's genetically modified. Okay, it's going to have preservatives, it's going to have toxins. All of these can cause poisoning of your system. Now, when you look at it, and I love the way they read this, but if it falls below the minimum necessary for sound health, it should cause worry. And the first requirement is to ascertain the cause of the malady. God, I wish we spoke that way, When you look at the European and Indian journals, it just gives you goosebumps. It's like Sherlock Holmes is still around. And so this is a really tough concept, particularly in today's society. Disease does not exist. Okay? Some people will say, no, disease exists. Really, what does diabetes weigh? What does cancer look like outside of the body? Oh, you can't measure it? It's only abnormal cell growth? How heavy is asthma? Okay, what does high blood pressure look like? None of these diseases exist. They're all the body adapting to deficiency or toxicity. A brilliant analogy is, does darkness exist? You might say, well, yeah, that corner's dark. Okay, good, measure the darkness. You can't. See, darkness doesn't actually exist. We can't measure darkness because I can light a candle and it goes away. We can measure light. Okay, we can measure light, photons of energy, because light is energy. So disease doesn't really exist. Disease is just a lack of health. So disease is lack of optimal cell function. So anything you do to strengthen cell function, you can reverse any disease. Any disease, right? Any disease. Cancer, anything. And it's true, too. And I love this one. This is a really funny YouTube thing. Do you suffer from shyness? Okay. Would you like to be more assertive? How'd you like to be more attractive? Well, ask your doctor or pharmacist if tequila is right for you. Okay. Well. When you think about it, okay, I mean, because what are we doing? We're pharmacizing our world here. Are you shy? Yeah, put me in a party. I'm going to be speaking to 600 doctors in a couple of weeks, and I'm totally comfortable in big groups. You put me at a party where they're talking about sports, I know nothing about sports. I was raised with girls. Okay, I mean, I love this. Tequila, the safe, natural way to feel better, more confident about yourself. I mean, when you look at this, okay, now obviously I'm not promoting tequila use, although it's New Year's coming up. Okay, I'm going to show you what I'm doing on New Year's. It's really a blast. But tequila, when you look at the signs, what happens if you drink too much? Do you get red skin? You have a little trouble walking? Okay, maybe you might have a little upset stomach. Okay, you might have maybe heart palpitations if you drink too much. Does that make sense? Okay, anybody? I know you don't drink too much, but your relatives have. You've seen that? Well, look at this. Suicide attempts, light sensitivity. Oh God, it's so bright in here. Okay, palpitations, heart and stomach upset. Okay, redness of the skin. These are all the side effects of Prozac. Okay? They're the same side effects of Prozac, of antidepressants. Do you know how antidepressants work? No, neither do they. Some people will say, well, they're selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They're SSRIs. They're not. Okay, when you look at it, the mechanism of its action is unknown. We don't know how this thing works. But these are the side effects. So what a body is looking for is homeostasis. It's trying to find its balance. So if you're finding your balance and your blood pressure has to be a little bit higher than normal to keep your system alive, you don't get toxic chemical to lower it down. You find out why it's high. If you've had tissue damage and your cholesterol is high, you don't take a chemical to lower it down. If you got pain, you find out why it's pain. If you're a 9-year-old girl or a 7-year-old girl with asthma, you don't go in there and give steroids to shrink the swelling of the mucous membranes that cause cancer. Okay, you go in there and find the problem and fix it. Does that make more sense? It does to me too. So wellness is the body's ability to adapt. It's not lack of symptoms. If I get an infection, I hope I develop a fever. Oh man, I want to be sweating. I want to be miserable. I want to have my mucous membrane swelling up. I want to be coughing tons of gross green stuff out. Why? Because viruses die at a higher temperature. My mucous membranes are designed to wall off. I'm coughing to expel used up mucus. It's a brilliant response. So wellness is not lack of symptoms. It's true health. Now this right here, Type 2 diabetes, look at it different. Look at it different, because we're talking about half our population has this. This is the body adapting to a high-calorie, poor nutrition environment, or just crappy nutrition. So now let's say that your blood is too thick because you're taking horrible nutrition. Okay, you need to get more oxygen to cells, right? Because the blood's toxic, it's poisonous. Okay, so what are we going to diagnose it as? We're going to diagnose it as high blood pressure. Let's say you have high lipids in the blood, okay, because you have tissue damage, because you've got diabetes, you've got toxic stuff, so you're adapting by elevating cholesterol levels, which is designed to help rebuild tissue. What are you going to be diagnosed with? High cholesterol. Okay, you need more energy in the blood. Why? Because you're just fading out. Okay, you can be diagnosed with diabetes. Now, the reality is, if you're over 65, you're taking an average of 9 different prescriptions. Each medication slows or stops a metabolic process. This is stupid. Anybody that says that taking 2 drugs together is safe is absolutely ignorant. Absolutely. If you're taking more, and chances are you are taking more than one drug, don't take them together. Separate them by at least an hour. Drink a full glass of water in between. Why? It's a little safer. And just for fun, for giggles, take all the prescription pills you're taking, put them in a dish, grind them up, take them to the police department. Say, somebody tried to slip me this over New Year's Eve. Were they trying to kill me or save me? I know. That's everybody I tell that to, they laugh and they say, no, I'm not going to do that. Of course it's poisonous. But my doctor prescribed it. No, don't do that. This is our real world. Okay, since we're going to be living a long time, I'm going to be living to well over 100 as long as I, don't die skydiving or get hit by a car. We want to live healthy. You're not going to live the last 30, 40, 50 years in a wheelchair. If you go to these rest homes, they're called convalescent homes now, I think, you see in the afternoon, they line everybody up in wheelchairs. Why? Because they're just comatose with drugs, because it makes them easier to handle. Heck no, this is our future. Flexibility, strong. This is what we need to look at. The mind is vital. There's only 3 things that can cause disease. Okay, it's going to be trauma. It means your brain controls every cell in the body. If that's off, your body can't get the signals. The other one is toxins. Okay, this means if it's not food, you don't eat it. If it's a medication, get off it as quick as you can. Okay, and most medications you can stop very, very easily. Don't ask your doctor if it's right for you, because if he prescribed it, he is ignorant of how the body works. Okay, find a real healthcare professional. And thought. This is the one thing that's missing. This is why we're here today. Thought can be toxic. Thought can absolutely be toxic. It's going to tell your body to produce negative cells or positive cells. How many people love roller coasters? Okay, I'm not one of them. Okay, if you and me went on a roller coaster, I would be panicked. Jumping out of a plane, I'm okay with. A roller coaster, good God. There's no parachute, okay? If we both rode on a roller coaster, you would have an experience of joy. Your immune system would be stimulated. Mine, I'd be producing adrenaline. I'd be just messed up. I'd get a cold. You'd be stronger. Okay, same event, different perception. So now we have to look at this. If a mind misinterprets environmental signals, it can generate inappropriate responses. Okay, that's huge. Now, placebo and nocebo. Everybody knows placebo. You know, you take a drug. Hi, this one's really good for pain. If you take it, you're going to have pain relief. Okay, and in fact, we can prove that. Her body, taking a pill that's absolutely innocuous. It could be, you know, healthy sugar. Okay, your body's going to produce a pain reliever more powerful than heroin. I can give Steve a pill, tell him it's for blood pressure. Instantly, we can check it. We're talking about 75 to 80% of the time his blood pressure will go lower because he's thinking it's going to go lower. I can give an antacid, or just a sugar pill, say it's an antacid, and their stomach will actually produce less acid just by thought. What people don't know is nocebo. It's like the evil twin. You can think a bad thought and produce a bad result. Okay, you can think that I'm going to get sick. I get sick every time this year. What's going to happen to you? Guarantee your immune system's going to get weaker. Guaranteed, 100% of the time. Pavlov did this before when he was checking dogs. He would feed them when he rang a bell, feed them when they rang a bell. He rang a bell and they would start salivating. It's the same thing. This guy, if you've ever seen The Secret, he was called the Miracle Man. Okay, now this fella here, Morris Goodman, 35 years old, super wealthy, had a plane, crashed it. Crushed everything, crushed the top two bones in his neck. His nervous system wouldn't work right. He couldn't breathe for himself. None of his organs worked right. Multiple broken bones. None of his muscles worked. Total organ system lost. All he can do was think and blink his eyes. Okay, now, all he could do was think. Now, since thought can be toxic, thought can also be healing. So if you realize that you can take that brain and you can stimulate cell production, that's exactly what he did. He said he not only survived, but he got his ability to walk. I think it was less than a year. Strong faith in God, courage, and optimism. Now, when you understand that your body is energy, can energy be created or destroyed? No. It can only be transformed. So your cells, when you look at your body, and from a science perspective, there's energy in there and there's matter. You're actually more energy than matter. Because if you take that cell down into the molecules into atoms, the atoms into quarks, there's really nothing much there. It's only energy. So since energy can't be created or destroyed, that means the energy that you have that's holding your cells together is absolutely eternal. Whatever your belief systems are, this is science. Okay, and it's absolute fact. This is a great study. Now, does anyone in here have any allergies?
Yeah.
Good. How'd you like to eliminate them immediately? Let me tell you about this Japanese study. Took a group of kids. Okay, now all these kids, they all had severe allergies to poison ivy. And there's a skin response to poison ivy. So what they did is they took their arms, they rubbed poison ivy on one, they rubbed another leaf on the other side. Just looked like poison ivy, but it wasn't. Okay, just so they can do a good experiment. And sure enough, 100% of the kids developed a rash where the poison ivy side, and the other side didn't have anything. The problem is, actually not the problem, this was the cool part. This is like oh wow. They switched the leaves. They didn't tell the researchers or anything else. So these kids had to protect themselves from the poison ivy side, and they did it just using their mind. And just using their mind, they took the side that didn't have poison ivy, and they had to give themselves a response. So they actually had to increase histamine response in that side, and they had to protect themselves on that side. Just using their mind, they were able to do it. So is the mind powerful? Yes or yes? Yeah, your body's mainly energy. So your mind can change the receptor sites. You change the receptor sites on the cell, you change the protein produced. If you change the protein produced, you can either develop cancer or cure cancer. You can develop disease or cure disease, and perception changes it. Not what happens to you, because we just rode on the roller coaster. It's your perception of what's happening to you. That's vital. Your body's 70% water, Dr. Emoto. Now this is a brilliant book, Messages from Water. Since your body's 70% water, what he did, he would take jars of water from the same source and put thought into it. Thought. Now, we can't measure the energy of thought. We don't have the skills. We're not that advanced. But we can measure experiments using thought. So he taped thoughts on the water. That's with a prayer. After praying over water, that's the standard water. And it's reproducible, 100% out of the 100%. Okay, now, so wellness requires move well, eat well, think well. Sickness requires toxicity and deficiency. That's all it is. Disease doesn't actually exist. I love this one. British Medical Journal did multiple studies where exercise is always better than antidepressants. Why? Because movement stimulates lymph. Movement also stimulates endorphin production. It also helps the brain. Also, one of the best studies I've seen out of the British Medical Journal, they suggested gardening. And we're going to talk about the actual skin on earth contact. Now, you have to walk at least 30 minutes a day. Now this is the sheet for some meditation. On the back of it is conscious breathing. Okay, now conscious breathing is vital, because when you do this, and if you do it correctly, now I'm just a novice. I've only been doing it for about 6 years. I'll get better. When I'm like 30, 40 years into this, I'll probably be really, really good. Right now I'm kind of wimpy. But you're supposed to breathe in to a count of 8. Okay, roughly. You hold it for however long as you want. Masters will hold it for about 30 seconds. I only hold it for about 10. Okay, if you're just starting off, do it for 5. And then you breathe out twice as long as you breathe in. So for me, it's about 16 seconds. You hold it with no air in your body, okay, for however long you want. I hold it for about 10 seconds. And then you breathe in for 8. Now you do this for about 15 to 30 minutes. Okay, and this, watch what happens. Okay, then you do that. I know it's like watching grass grow. But what happens is, when you breathe in, am I moving lymph? Absolutely, I'm moving lymph. So just exercising if you're sitting. So if you can't walk, like let's say you're paraplegic, which I got a few of those. Okay, just breathing will help move the lymph. Okay, and you can work up to it. But also, since your mind is vital on this, I gave you, this is what I'm going to be doing New Year's Eve. It's a party. Okay, now, I know getting drunk might be fun, but I really don't like the next day. Okay, so it's not really fun for me. So if you know that if your mind is vital for healing, and it is, and that's what we're going to talk about meditation, but without direction, it's like a boat without a rudder. A boat without a rudder is useless. Okay, you can't do anything. I mean, I've got about 6 ways I can make a rudder because it's that important. So if your life doesn't have a rudder or direction or focus, you're not going to get there. Okay, you're absolutely going to achieve what you're not planning for. Okay, which is nothing. So this thing is a way to go through and write down and focus 100 goals. Now you could do this for 10 years, you can do it every year. Myself, I'm going to do it for all the goals that I want to achieve next year. And then you go through and you have the feeling behind it. So let's say that you want to have a veggie burning Rolls Royce. Okay? Now I know that's okay. It's one of the things I'm going to have on here. Okay, I like veggie burning. I'm going to have an older one. Okay, I want it kind of cool. Okay, and it's going to be unique. I just think that would be fun. So then you visualize what it's like to have. You visualize the biodiesel that you're going to be making in your garage. You visualize every aspect to it. Okay, how it's going to bring harmony in the world. You know, whatever. But all the feelings behind it. But that is going to be a phenomenal New Year's. And then you go through and you pick the most important goals and go for it. And this is also going to be fuel. It's going to be fuel for your meditation. because you're going to have certain words, and you'll see that in a minute. But this will give you fuel to get the feeling behind it. So if you want a boat, a car, a nice relationship, to be able to read a book a month, okay, be able to read a book a week if you're crazy, okay. I mean, I read all the time, so I'm not fun to hang out with. But, whatever your goal you want to have, okay, but what does it feel like? So if you read a book a month, what's it feel like to have 12 books? I mean, it takes some people years to write a book, and you could read it in a month? Oh my gosh, what an advantage, what a time saver. So that will be ideal. Plus, it also gives you the feeling behind it. Now, what is meditation? Yes, this is my favorite guy. Did anybody ever see this movie? Kill Bill 2, I totally recommend it. It's Pame, the cruel tutelage. Prayer is talking to God, okay? Meditation is listening to God. This is vital. It's vital you know the difference. Okay, now meditation, it's not problem solving, it's not brainstorming, it's not processing. That's what all of this is for. Okay, so I want you to separate the two. Meditation goal is a zero state. This is the nirvana. This is where you're not thinking about anything, where you're relaxed, where you're stimulating that subconscious. And the subconscious is involved in the healing. Now, when we look at this, there's a couple of like preps you can do. And I have all of this on here. Okay, so I'll make it really, really easy. The test will be in 5 minutes. I know. Doesn't that, I don't care where you are, it just kind of like, oh God, I don't want to be tested. Okay, so this, start off by rapid breathing. Why? Because we're going to be working with the brain. The brain burns most of the body's oxygen. Now, make sure you're sitting down when you're doing this, because if you're standing up and you're not used to it, you might get dizzy and fall down. Okay, so by 10 deep breaths, I mean, okay, so what that does, that hyperoxygenates the brain. Anyone want to try it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's try it, okay? Ready? Good rush, huh? Yeah, baby, that's what I'm doing New Year's. Okay, so that hyperoxygenates the brain. Then, now, you can do this or not, but start rubbing your hands together. Now, your body is mainly energy. It's more energy than matter. Now, some people will feel this. Now, you're getting rid of some cells. You're also stimulating how your body works. So after doing this very, very fast, you can pull them apart. They might be tingling. What's wild is the more you do this, if you bring them closer, you may feel an increase in tingling. You bring them further away, you may feel decrease in tingling. Okay, and you're going to find out that eventually you're going to get a little bit more sensitized to the energy. And what's cool with this is you're actually messing with your own personal energy. And typically, what's always nice to do is put it out and put something positive. Because like, I love humans. Okay, I actually love the planet too. And then you can also put it back towards you. And that's a beautiful way to start. Because most people, if you had self-love, if you knew that you're made in the image and likeness of God, and this isn't just Bible jargon, it's also Torah jargon, and it's also by the Quran. Okay, so all the three, major religions, they all say that you're made in the image and likeness of God. Now, whether they're right or wrong, okay, that's different. But what if they are? Oh my gosh! Would that cause you to have a little bit more self-love? Heck yes. Now, anyone ever have a kid that puts them in a car seat? Okay, what happens to that kid after you're driving about 5 minutes? Falls asleep, exactly. Okay, same thing. Okay, and just like in those movies, watch this slowly. You are feeling sleepy. Okay, what am I doing? I'm causing a slow, deep, rhythmic response. Okay, he's looking at a slow, deep, rhythmic response. What you need to do is get into the O state. This is where, when you see all those movies where people go in and go, that one monotone, what you're going to do when you do this, and I just want you to do one good Om. You don't have to do a good vibrato or anything, but it's just right down from your heart, and you're going to actually feel it. So take a really deep breath in. Om. Okay, so it's a little bit longer than the average, but you know, I know when I meditate it's really boring. It's not really fun to watch, but what that does, it creates a vibration and it also gives you something to focus to, because we're trying to get to the O state, to clean our brain, get out of the junk, so we can get in on the real stuff, which is what we're going to accomplish next year. Okay? Now also, when you're getting in this, you have to come up with a word. And a word, because there's going to be thoughts coming in. There's going to be, you know, this business decision, this personal decision, this financial decision, you know, that you're just not being heard, this person is really being a turd to you. Okay, you know, all those things that come into your brain when you're trying to wipe it out. Okay, you need to have one word. Okay, and this, when you're doing the breathing, if you look at your goals, you're going to come up with one. Something like peace or love or joy. Hopefully it's about one syllable. And that could be the same one, it could be different ones. You know, there's no rules behind it. Now these are the chakra points. Whether you believe in chakra points or not, we really don't have the technology to look at it completely. What we do have, this here is a Kirlian projection, and you could take Kirlian photography of every living thing, and it has these energy emanations from it. Now we can't measure it, we can just photograph it. Remember, we're still in the dark ages here. We can't really look at this. So in order to do this, a real good meditation, you're touching the ground. Actually, you got skin on earth contact. This is why at our office we recommend you walk barefoot in the grass, dirt, or sand 20 minutes a day, which is easy for us. We're in Huntington Beach. My son is now in Kansas. It's below 30. Him walking barefoot in the grass, dirt, or sand probably wouldn't work out well for him. So what you want to do is you want to get as close to the earth as possible. The reason is there's an electronegative charge on the earth. If this is how our bodies are all the time, so my body is like this, okay? So's yours. You have this energy emanating from it, but we can't see it. Okay, I mean, some people say they can, but right now we know that we can take a photograph of it. So you have to sit close to the earth. You got an electronegative connection. You got to do the Om. You got to do the breathing. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Now, when you close your eyes, some people don't know where to look. If you look at a point about a foot away from your body, straight away from your forehead, so you close your eyes, but you're actually looking up there, that keeps your eyes focused. And so anytime a thought comes in, you say the word, you do the breathing, you focus. So you're only focusing on the breathing, on the looking, and just wiping out your brain. And that actually helps you focus. And you will get to the O state. And what that does, that actually stimulates. When you take Kirlian photography of someone before meditation or after meditation, it's ridiculous how much stronger you get. You take a live blood cell analysis before meditation and after meditation. Phenomenal. When groups of people have meditated in every city, and we're talking in Washington, D.C., in New Delhi, in London, all these groups of people pray, and they pray for a given time, at a given period, and they pray for crime rates to go down. It's an average between 28 and 32%. The crime rates fall. Why? Because we're all connected to the same thing. So this stuff is vital. Now what I like, and this is a part of a Tibetan method, is when you get this, you can do certain hand positions. You don't have to. There's no rules. There's dozens and dozens of ways to get to meditate. But this one is integrity, and this is integrity. Your left hand touches the ground. Okay, the right hand palm up and forward. So while you're meditating, you can do these hand positions. I mean, imagine if I was sitting. Integrity, balance, courage, okay, and love. This is while you're meditating, just to have those one word. Okay, let's say you're thinking about, say, a relationship. Okay, beautiful, integrity. Okay, and then you try and wipe your mind out a little bit. You're doing the breathing. You're looking up in there. Balance. Okay. Courage, okay, and you can say this over and over again. You can hold it for a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and then love. Okay, so these things, they're universal truths. And how many people's life would be better if you had integrity, balance, courage, and love? Everybody's? Yeah, it pretty much worked. How many percentage of people do we get better with asthma? 100%. What about high blood pressure? 100%. I mean, virtually every disease is curable using cell function and not appropriate cell function. Also affirmations, and this is what you're going to be putting down on your sheet for designing your year. Remember, if you're not going to design your year, you're a boat without a rudder. It doesn't work. Okay, you have to design your year. The affirmations have to be positive. You never write down, I want less bills. Okay, you write, I want more abundance. Okay, you never want, I want to be single, get rid of that turd. Okay, you write, I have a beautiful, harmonious relationship, and you think of the feeling behind it. So affirmations have to be in the positive and present tense. They have to be written down. They have to be personalized. And this is always going to help with your meditation as well. Now, well, this one here. Genetics has very little to do to yourself. Lifestyle has very little, but they all combine into what you actually are now. So there's not a genetic disease that you can't reverse unless it's like Down syndrome, and even those people can be helped. Most diseases, like the diseases that you're suffering from, like Alzheimer's or cancer or diabetes or high blood pressure, these are not diseases. There's just the body adapting. Now this is going to sound ridiculously simple, but when you look at the sheet on how to meditate, when you understand that your brain is more important, your energy level, okay, in your body is more important, whether it's positive or negative energy, you're going to either positively or negatively affect the cells. Your perception is everything. This is what's required to restore normal health. You need to have your nervous system checked. Why? Because if you've had a trauma, it's not going to work right. It's just not going to work right. You have to exercise daily. Or well, not daily. Okay, just on days you brush your teeth. Wait, that would be every day. Okay, good. Proper nutrition. Okay, this means healthy. If it's food, you eat it. If it's not, you don't. It's not toxins or poisons in the food. You go up and you ask the restaurant, is it genetically modified? If it is, I don't want it. Okay, so it has to be healthy. If you have emotional things, this time of the year you have to have D3. If you have emotional issues, like last week we were talking about B3 and vitamin C. Sufficient rest. We're going to talking about this in January. How to get deep sleep every night. How to sleep. Most people don't know. They don't know how to lay down and sleep. And we're going to show you the natural treatment to cure insomnia. You know how, if you've had insomnia for 20 years, do you know how long it takes to cure it?
20 minutes?
No, about 2 week and a half, 2 weeks. Okay, yeah, 20 minutes, that fixes most everything. And then prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation. Only on days you brush your teeth. Wait, that would be every day. And if you say you don't have enough time, you do. You can meditate an hour. Wake up just 15 minutes early in the morning. Take 15 minutes at lunch. Okay, take 15 minutes after work before you go home, and take 15 minutes before you go to bed. I mean, it's so beautiful. It gives you that connection, and you got to understand, you're more energy than matter. You're more spirit than physical. If you pay attention to the spirit as much as you do to the physical, you got health. Wow, that's brilliant. That makes sense, doesn't it? So thank you so much for coming tonight.